So you may have clicked on this video and wondered, what is community college? Well, are you in the right place? Because I just graduated community college. So I recently just graduated community college, and I was going to go over my experience, some of the frequently asked questions, and the pros and cons that I found while attending community college. So going into my experience at community college, I graduated with a psychology degree. Overall, I know my schooling experience was good, and it's different from big-time universities. Some of the differences being that I still lived at home while going to school. I still got to eat my mom's home-cooked meals. I still got to sleep in my own bed. I didn't have to worry about too many bills, pay for my car bill, my phone bill, and I paid for my entire college tuition. You still do have to pay for tuition at a community college. It still does cost money, but you get scholarships, and I was lucky enough to get a few scholarships that helped me through community college. I think the total I had to pay while being at the 2-year community college was about close to $1,000, maybe a little bit more for classes. Because community colleges, especially if you take a summer or fall class, they want you to be there. So they'll just be handing out scholarships like nothing, at least at the community college that I went to. My professors were good. I was involved. I was on the cross-country team for a year. I was in the psychology club, and we would do events and stuff. I became a lifeguard and a swim instructor at my community college's pool. And I would say being involved was one of the best things I could have done while being at community college, because when you're involved, it helps you more. You may think, spending 10 hours in the library is good and you focus all on school, which yes, you should definitely focus on school. But the thing about community college is it's harder to meet people. That is, from my experience, that's what I found, because people just go to class and then they go home. Or sometimes, depending on the time of day you have to take your class, like if you take a lot of night classes, it's mostly going to be like parents or older people. So I would say the time of day you take your classes is important. I would say if you can, don't take all online classes. Because my spring semester last year, I made the mistake of taking 2 online classes, and then my other 2 classes were in person, but they were super small, so I didn't meet anyone and I had no friends, and I was so sad. So I would definitely, if you can, take all of your classes in person, because then you can meet more people, get more involved. You're not going to regret getting involved. Getting involved was one of the best things that I could have done. I've made some lifelong friends from being on my cross-country team, from being in the psychology club. And that's the thing that's really going to stick with you, is the people you're around and the people you surround yourself with. Overall, I would say my experience was good. My advisor was helpful for the most part. I would still definitely do your own digging for the classes you need to take, especially for the universities you're planning on going to after community college. You need to make sure you look at the classes you're taking for your degree that you're going to be continuing at your university. Look at those requirements, because if you don't take the required classes, then it's going to be way harder to transfer. And especially when you start if that's what you're going to do. That is personally what I'm doing. I went to community college for 2 years, and now I'm transferring to a big time university. And I would say transferring has definitely, with the university that I'm going to at least, has been difficult. So definitely look into the universities that are going to give you support. Overall, my experience at community college was good, and I don't regret it. I think it was the right decision for me. Now, if you have the option to go to a 4-year and it can all be paid for, go to that 4-year. But I have to say, going to a 2-year community college gave me 2 more years to figure stuff out. I had 2 more years to figure out what my degree was going to be, to make more money, to pay for university, to pay for my car, to pay for my phone, to figure out where I'm going to big time college, because sometimes in high school you don't have that all figured out, and I didn't have that figured out. So I feel like community college gave me that opportunity to really figure out what I'm going to be doing with my life, what pathway I want to take, save up money, stay close with my family. Some people I know don't have that luxury and don't really want to stay with their family. But luckily, I was in the position to be able to stay at my house, and it wasn't a super big deal for me to need to leave. Overall, yes, I do think community college financially was the best decision for me. Emotionally and maturity level, the best decision for me. And now I can definitely say I am ready to move on to university and move on to those bigger things. So some frequently asked questions that people might have about community college is, what is community college? So community college is usually a 2-year school, usually local to where you live, a public institution that offers a variety of educational programs, including associate's degrees, certificates, and vocational training, often serving as a pathway to 4-year universities. Now, I know some community colleges, I have a lot of friends in nursing. They just go to community college and get their nursing degree, and bam, wham, kazam, they're a nurse. I don't know exactly how that works because I'm not a nursing student, but I know community college is a great opportunity for them, especially to get experience in the nursing field. So what are the benefits of attending community college? Now, I kind of listed some of the benefits with my personal experience, but community colleges are typically more affordable than 4-year universities, offering flexible scheduling options and providing a supportive learning environment with smaller class sizes. Now, I will say, yes, the smaller class sizes were definitely a benefit. I could get a hold of my teacher, of my professor, a lot easier, quicker to email. You could go up to them after class and talk to them about stuff. Office hours are always super flexible. Like, I could get to their office hours pretty easily. They weren't always like booked up. I know at my community college there was a lot of resources for people with special needs specifically. So if you need if you need more time to take tests, there's a learning center you could go to. If you needed to take a test in a specific room, if you needed more time to complete an assignment, I know you can get the help that you needed, at least at my community college. These are things that you would definitely need to look into to the community college in where you specifically live. What types of programs are offered at community college? Now, every community college is different, but when I was talking about sports, I know NJCAA is typically the sporting program. Now, I have to say, when I was an athlete, my first year, it was one of the most fun experiences of my life, because being an athlete, you get scholarships, you get super big opportunities. I got to fly to Alabama. I've never been on a plane before, and I got that for free. I didn't have to pay for anything. I got to run in races. I got a bunch of free food and shirts and clothes, and this is just from community college. Like, I didn't have to pay for any of this, but my community college was a D2 NJCAA school. So I would say, if you are into sports, if you were into a sport in high school and you want to continue that in community college, definitely look into those opportunities at your community college, because some people may think, there's a stigma around community college, like, oh, it's cheap, it's blah, blah, blah. But no, it's really not. Your community college is better than you think. You just need to be looking into these opportunities, especially since there is a stigma around it. People aren't going to be looking into these opportunities because they're like, oh, I don't want to go to community college. No, you need to be the bigger person. You need to be realistic with yourself, with what you're willing to pay for, with what you want with your schooling. Look into these opportunities. They are out there. So definitely look into sports. The community college that I went to, I know there was a lot of opportunities there's so many programs offered. you do just have to look into them. Another question could be, how can I afford community college? Now, for me, I got lots of scholarships based on my major. So applying for scholarships is usually through your school. So when you get into your school, you usually apply for the scholarships through there. There's usually like a little link, and then you go to scholarships and then you apply for what you can. So applying for scholarships within your major, with where you work, sometimes where you work has scholarships, how much money your family makes. So like there was a scholarship that I got called the College Promise Scholarship that paid for my entire tuition the first year based on the amount of money that my family made. To apply for scholarships, you have to submit your FAFSA. You have to submit your FAFSA. You have to submit your FAFSA. Submit your FAFSA. If you don't submit your FAFSA, you're not getting scholarships. You're not getting scholarships if you don't submit your FAFSA. So you have to submit your FAFSA. Submitting your FAFSA does require parent help. If you don't have parent help, I know there are other ways that you can submit your FAFSA, but I do believe you need a parent to sign off on your FAFSA, like to put information down. At least that's what I had to do. I had to have my parent put stuff on my FAFSA for me to submit my FAFSA and get information about scholarships and such. Another question, can I transfer to a 4-year college after community college? Yes. Typically, that is the goal. That is my goal, going to a 4-year college after community college. If you were wondering my degree, if I hadn't said it already, I have my associate's degree in psychology. What am I going to do with that? I don't know. But I'm planning on getting my bachelor's in exercise science and then going into 2 years of med school to become a physician's assistant. That's what I have planned for now. Go into occupational therapy. I was going to go the mental health route and try to become a therapist, but now I think I'm going more physical. But, that's what I have planned for now. We'll see where it goes. But yes, you typically can transfer to a 4-year college after community college. Now, this is really important. You have, kind of like I was saying before, you have to look at the classes you need to take to transfer to this 4-year college. If you don't take the right classes for your major to transfer, it's going to make everything else so difficult. So definitely talk to your advisor, talk to the people in your field, talk to your professors about this. Like, get as much information as you can. The pros and cons that I found with community college, and I'm going to get into the pros. So, the pros, obviously, less money. You had to pay less money to go to the school. Less money commuting. I did not have to pay that much in gas commuting to my community college. Less competition for scholarships. This is a huge one. Now, with big time universities, I know there's a bigger competition for scholarships. The community college I went to, I got a few hefty scholarships, and they helped me get through my community college career. Now, this is different for everybody. This is different for every family. This is different for how much money you make. This is different for your FAFSA. There's a lot of things that go into this, but community college will definitely be less expensive than university for many different reasons. You don't have to pay for housing because you already live in your house unless you're planning on moving out. Smaller classes so you can get a hold of your professor better. So yeah, some of the classes I took only had like 7 other students in them. So I could talk to my professor and get more information after class if I needed to from my professor. So much easier. When I emailed my professor, they got back to me so much quicker. This could be a good and a bad thing. A good thing because you get a hold of your professor better. A bad thing maybe because you're like, I want to make more friends. But Like I said, you just got to join clubs, join sports, just start talking to people. That's what I tried to do, at least, and it worked for me. I made many friends, but everybody's different. Easier to get to your classes. So community classes are obviously a smaller campus. Way easier getting around. Everything is so much closer. Like a 2-minute walk to every class. Easier to get your classes. When scheduling your classes for each semester, I never had any issue scheduling my classes since there's such small amount of people in every class. I never had an issue fighting for a spot in my class. I think I had an issue once because I was trying to take an honors class but it also wasn't an honors class. I had one issue with one class, but it was resolved. And that is important because you want to take all the right classes when you go on to university. When you're transferring to big time university, I found that they typically look at your college GPA and grades instead of your high school GPA and grades. So if you had a bad GPA in high school and you didn't do that great in high school, just try to do better in community college. My high school grades were good. I had a 3.7 GPA. I was pretty involved. I was your average student. I wasn't an overachiever, but I also didn't really have any idea of where I wanted to go to college. That's why I went to community college, so I could figure it out. That's why it worked for me. Applying to my big time university, I found that they are just looking at my community college stuff. They ask for your high school transcript, and they ask for your community college transcript. I found that they really only looked at my community college. They didn't even ask for my SATs or anything like that. I know a lot of schools don't ask for that anymore. The cons. So the cons that I found, depending on the school you go to, it can be more difficult to transfer because what I found is schools are going to prioritize freshmen over transfers. So this is a big one. The school, at least that I'm going to, has seemed to prioritize freshmen over transfers. For example, finding a place to live, on-campus housing, they do prioritize freshmen over transfers, and that has been my biggest struggle so far with transferring to university. So when you do go into community college, try to make a plan of the universities that you're going to work towards and look into all that. Look into what offers on-campus housing. Look into apartments around the schools that you're planning on going to. How much money do you have saved up? How are you going to pay for this? Look into your FAFSA. There's so many different things that you should definitely prepare for. And community college, since it's 2 years, you kind of have that time to think about it more and to prepare for it more, which is why I took that route. So another con I found was it is harder to make friends. People just go to their classes and then they go home. And that's why I really emphasized on joining clubs, joining sports, getting involved in your school, getting involved in your major, because having those connections is important. Like I said before, you can spend however much time you want in the library studying, but the times you are going to remember is the friends you make. And making friends is just going to make the whole experience so much better. It made it a lot better for me, especially having friends in your field. So you can talk to them about certain assignments. You can relate to them about certain things. You can get a feel on the field more. But yeah, so it definitely is harder to make friends because you're not living with them. But if you make an effort, you definitely can. It can be done. In conclusion, overall, going to community college was the right choice for me, because I am paying for my entire college career by myself, on top of my car payment and my phone payment. Let me say it louder. I'm paying for it all by myself. So community college really was the right decision for me. because it was cheaper. I got involved within the school, so I made friends. I got all the classes I needed to transfer because the classes were small. I had time to figure out my major, I had time to save up money, and I had time to figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my college career and the rest of my future adult career. Transferring has been a little bit difficult, but I believe it's because of the university I'm going to. But every university is different, and every person's FAFSA is going to be different. Every person's amount of scholarships is going to be different based on the amount of money that your parents make. It's just the way that I found that it is. Overall, though, I feel like going to a 2-year school has been beneficial for me because I've gotten that time to figure everything out. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video on community college, the pros and cons, and my experience. If anybody has any questions about my experience and the things that I've learned about community college and university along the way, let me know. And I will try to answer what I can. I'm just your average student with a little bit of knowledge. So, all right. Yeah!